I say this because that's exactly what happened. And after going through that, I found myself so amazed by all of your teachings that I could not put, in action in my life. I knew everything you were saying. I could understand it from it's been so long since I've cried. You do this to me. You really do. So I knew in my heart what you were saying, and my mind knew exactly all of the techniques. I had been through 3 years of coaching with a very empathetic and great teacher, Carlos Velasquez. And I thought that, I understood everything. And then all of a sudden I was there and I was opening my eyes. I had a dream that I wasn't going to survive. I didn't know I was going to go through heart surgery. Just had a dream about my dad. And I knew that I had to get into the elevator as fast as I could. And he was like, hurry up, I'm going to have to leave. And those are the kinds of dreams that I had when I knew my mother was going to die and my grandmother was going to die and my aunt and my cousin and everyone in my family. And so I knew that I was going to die and I didn't know how. I went to the cardiologist and they told me that they had to do open heart surgery. And I knew that I wasn't going to make it out until I found your voice somewhere in all this chaos talking about forgiveness. And I said, you know what? This is the last chance I have to put in action what I didn't, because I was so comfortable trying to understand intellectually what he was trying to tell me that I didn't apply it. And so I'm going to apply it right now. And Raul went, and my first ex-husband went, and my children, my brother, 10 years, I didn't speak to him, all my cousins, everyone. And we had such a nice talk, and we said the most amazing things from the bottom of our heart. I know I did. And we forgave ourselves. And all of a sudden, it was like a miracle. I came out of surgery. It only took me 1 hour to get out of the IC unit. And the doctors could not believe it. This doctor has made 6,000 open heart surgeries at least. And he came out and said, textually, this is one of the worst, if it not the worst, valve that I've ever operated on. It was terrible, and you are a miracle. That's exactly what he said, because we became friends. And and here in Mexico, the suing and all of that is not a problem. So he said that, and I knew that it was. And then I had the opportunity to see some of the people afterwards, and it was all great and wonderful. And then I don't know what the fuck happened, and it's been very, very hard to forgive again. I'm on the right path now, but I would like you to please tell our audience, how do you forgive someone in like really easy steps? Because everybody talks about it, but it's just so hard to implement it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't blame you. It's not easy to forgive, because forgiveness, it's like, it's like strawberry dipped chocolate. It's sort of like, it's yummy, and it's and we get hooked on it. It's almost like a cigarette. There is a way that it gets its hook underneath us, and so when we don't forgive, when we hold judgment, the judgments brings gifts, right? One of the gifts would be blaming, we have someone to blame, right?
Right.
We have another person to blame.
Right.
And it allows us to be able to project our feeling, to separate from our feeling, and to project it onto other people. So we shame other people.
Right.
And the third gift is we get to be right. You know, we get to be right. And, you know, being right and righteous, it's yummy. It's, you know, it takes a lot to say, I don't want to be right.
Right.
I want to be loving, right? So, you know, to forgive, it's almost an unusual thing to do. It's almost like, you know, you're used to use your right hand as your dominant hand, and now you have to use your
Right.
left hand, because as human beings, as we grow up, no one really teaches us about this aspect of forgiveness, and it usually starts with the judgments that we hold against
Right.
ourselves. You know, we're not good enough, we're lazy, we lied, we didn't do it right, we cheated, you know, and so forth. And no one teaches us how to take the shower of forgiveness. So on a daily basis, we get to wash off all these judgments that they stick to us, right?
Right.
They stick to us. And after a while, the way we treat others is the way we treat ourselves.
Exactly.
So forgiveness, it's not a natural biological process, or at least based on what I've seen in treating patients. And I'm here to tell you, it's nothing short of a miracle, as you experienced it in yourself. You know, when the cardiothoracic surgeon replaced the valve, your valve, and said, gosh, this was tough, because it was one of the worst I've done, and you really are a miracle person. Because it's one thing to change a valve, and it's another thing for you to do your work internally so that you're ready for that new heart, right? And that's what forgiveness does. And forgiveness, a good way of looking at it, forgiveness is like learning to ride a bike. When you learn to ride a bike, that does not guarantee you, and that does not mean that you're
going to stay on.
Yeah, you'll fall off. And you do, I do, many people do. It's just a human nature. And the way that life is set up is for us to fall off the bike of forgiveness. And once you do, if you were to just to consider that forgiveness, it's a bike, then you realize that, okay, if I fall off the bike, what's the first thing I do? I stop, I take a deep breath, I remind myself that I'm going to be safe, I'm going to go through this. If you scraped off your knee, if you have injury, you bring attention to yourself, you apply loving to places inside yourself that they're hurting, right? And then now you're ready to get on the bike again.
Versus what we socially taught. I'm sorry to interrupt, but socially we're conditioned to, you're not supposed to feel that. So we don't like the pain and we don't like the scrape, and we just pretend that it didn't happen. And then with that comes repression, and that repression puts something limiting, a limiting emotion that does not let us shed the light and heal it, right?
That's it. Beautifully said. Yes, most people, most of us, if we're not careful and if we're not mindful, what we do is what I refer to in the book, The Clarity Cleanse, I refer to it as spiritual bypass. We go around it. Instead of learning to go through it, we want to go around it. that doesn't work. That doesn't work, because life is set up such that you go through your first marriage, it will not work, you will be triggered, you will fall off on your face. You go through your second marriage, it will not work, you will fall off on your face. You're here in this university called life for you to learn this lesson. You cannot cheat your way through life. Life is a university. Like people go to University of Harvard, right? Or Oxford or Stanford. Well, guess what? We got 7.85 billion people on this university that's called Earth. Right. So you're set up, and you, the day you were born with a soul curriculum that says, this is what you're gonna do when you're at this stage of your life, physically and psycho-spiritually. Everything is pre-planned for you to go through all these falling off and scraping your knees and breaking bones and having your valves replaced until you get to this wholeness that you realize that who you are at the soul level has nothing to do with what you look like. And that, yes, and at the soul level, your energy and your pure love, your pure love. Well, so when you forgive,
no, tell me. When you forgive, yes.
When you forgive, you're not doing anyone a favor.
You're doing yourself.
When you forgive, you are choosing to go through the hell of what it is to forgive, because forgiving, you got to go through hell before you get to heaven. No one will ever get to heaven without going through hell, because once you go through hell of, he did this to me, she did that to me, they did this to me, you know, all of that, every single human being goes through it. That's hell.
Right.
The way to heaven is paved first by going through hell. When we go through that, we get to burn off all of these misunderstandings and misinterpretations and misperceptions that we have. And we get to this place that we see the world as it truly is, that it's a loving world. And everything that has ever happened to you, me, and anyone who's watching, anything, every single thing, whether you like it, you didn't like it, whether you think it's heresy, what I'm saying, whether it's you perfect. Think, I don't know, it has occurred for you. It happened by design, because you needed that in order to unfold, in order to break open the way the seed breaks open, right? An acorn breaks open to become an oak tree. It needs to be landed. It needs to go through the dark night of the soul in order to rip open. If you didn't rip open, forgiveness, it would be a multiple words, letters. It doesn't mean nothing to you. But for you to be ripped open, and you see the brevity of life, you see the brevity of life, how quick it is, then you don't want to miss a breath. And then you go through it, you're authentic, you're honest, and you keep getting back on the bike. And you keep getting, you know, you keep learning how to be a master at forgiveness. Those are the people that they're masters in life. They've mastered forgiveness.
Well, what I can tell you is that I've forgiven myself, which is a big step, because I think that the worst judge there was in my life was myself. Mm-hmm. Another thing I would say is, I understand that everything is perfect. And I know that since I didn't have enough time before to really appreciate the gifts of chaos in my life and crisis, which are being huge opportunities.
Mhm.
And I didn't give myself the space to be grateful for so many things. I had to stay here, fall off the horse, be again ignited by Raul, because I don't know why we have this. I've dissolved it, but I guess that there's something energetically between him and me, that we have this agreement, this energy agreement, where it's like he pushes my buttons and I react, and then I push his buttons and then he reacts. And it's something that's been going on like forever since we met. And you know, when you're in love and everything, it's so much fun. But then when something finishes, it's not as fun because you hurt a lot of people. And so I guess I made that mistake, me making that mistake of provoking him again, saying about domestic violence and all of this, and my kids being angry at me and not being with me during this quarantine was perfect, because I've never had the space in my entire life to be by myself. This is the first time in my life in 50 years that I've been completely by myself. And I had to learn who I was, really, honestly. And I didn't have to impress anyone anymore. It gave me such degrees of freedom to go on this program and say, I fucked it up so many times. You have no idea. And I am still learning, and I'm a learning process. And I would like to share that with all of you, and to see that there's so many people that feel the same way. And so I think that, as you said, it's a gift to realize that the first person that you have to be in love with is yourself, and not seek outside what you have inside. And regarding this, I wanted to ask you something. What do you think, I mean, about all of this virtual reality? I know your standpoint, and I agree with you. I agree with you. I agree with Bill Maher. I agree with Plandemic. I agree with all of this subversive voices that go against the establishment, that are telling us that by being inside and you're taking care of everyone else, where it's like, my intuition tells me, and I've seen it, my warriors have come to my dreams, Dr. S, and they've told me that it is the worst thing to do. And I knew from the beginning, a lot of people thought because of my heart that I was going to be a target. And I don't know why I knew that I wasn't. And then it came out because anti-clogging medicine is something good. And then immune system and all the work that I've been doing by myself, listening to music, writing poetry, painting, you know, taking master classes and following, you know, voices like yours that give us so much, and hearing all the talks and the conversations out there from people that have the area of expertise, are giving me the tools, throughout this time of pandemic, where I haven't felt it. I've felt such a gift, and I am truly sorry to say this, because I know that there are a lot of people that are suffering losses, and there's so much still to go through, a lot of fire still to go through. But I can only speak in terms of what is my small, tiny little part in this. And I have felt that this chaos is a gift. So can you tell us, what is alchemy? How do you pronounce it? Alchemy medicine? And how do
medicine.
How do you view this thing that we're going through?
Yeah. So one of the things that I want to acknowledge about you is that you're finally are home, and your home into your own heart, into the cathedral of your being, and you understand that you're whole and complete, that all that which you think have been mistakes, they've been fertilizers that you needed for a different seed of tomorrow that is germinating, and it's giving you a different tree, different fruits and different shapes. So welcome back home into your own heart. And the thing that you're doing, which is you're looking at any situation. It's sort of like you go to a party and there are a lot of people that they look down and they see a lot of feces. They see a lot of shit on the floor, right? They could get disgusted and they could say, oh, this is terrible. Why am I here? Why did you invite me here? And there's some people that they look the same thing and they say, wow, where's the pony? If there's this much shit here, there's got to be a pony. Now, whether there is a pony or not, it's irrelevant. The fact that you get to look for the pony is everything. This is what Einstein was talking about when Einstein said, imagination is far more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited. Imagination is everything. When you go into a situation such as where we've found ourselves globally as a human family, 7.85 billion of us, we find ourselves stuck, quarantined, care cocooning inside our homes. We don't have contacts to too many people. Our birthdays, we can't celebrate with people that we love. The loved ones that they transition, they die, they pass on. We can't be there to share in their memory. We can't be there to really support them. We can't. So globally, this is an experience that we're going through. Everyone is suffering. Everyone. The ones that they have financial resources, the ones that they have power, the ones that they don't. Everyone is suffering. This is really the great equalizer. The issue is, can you create enough sweetness inside yourself and add this sugar of sweetness from inside to the sourness of the lemon that you find yourself? Can you do that? That's the opportunity. That's why every single person has an opportunity either to create more lemon and add it to the lemon outside, and what they're left with is just sour lemon. Then you end up complaining. No gratitude. And if you're complaining, it's like crack. If you do it, you can't stop. Then you complain more, you complain more, you complain more. And before you know it, you've gone through a life and you've wasted it. You become a constant complainer, and then your body gets literally acclimated to complaining. You find yourself complaining when your eyes open in the morning. You find yourself complaining when the last blink before you close your eyes. You find yourself complaining even in your own dreams. You create a physiological and psychospiritual temperament of that person who complains. And I'm here to tell you that if there is one quality that every single person who gets cancer that they have, it's at some stage in their life, they got stuck and they kept complaining about everything.
Everything.
Complaining it has a lot more in common with cancer than the first alphabet.
My
Complaining
mom was
is
a
the
complainer and
consciousness.
she had cancer when she was 31 years old. Yes. And every single
Yeah.
person that I know, without judgment, I'm saying it with love, they're complainers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have never, and I've seen a lot of people, and I've had the privilege of sitting across from some of the most influential people and some regular people. People usually come to Beehive of Healing because this is the end of the road clinic. People, they don't come in because they have a flu. They come in because they have an autoimmune disease. They come in because they've exhausted their resources. They can't get pregnant. They're dealing with infertility. They're coming in because they have a neurological issues, AMS, Parkinson's disease, early dementia, Alzheimer's. They're coming in because they have end-stage cancer. If you really sit down and when you dig and you go through this archaeological journey and you look at their biography of how they've lived, they all have one thing in common. They got addicted to crack of complaining. And if there is one thing, COVID-19, the gift that it has for us is to use this time as if we've gone through rehab and to really just completely be mindful. And when we see ourselves complaining, it could be about the food could have more salt. The water was too cold. Why is it too sunny? Why is it this way? How come it's taking too long? How come he didn't call back? How come she didn't text me? The minute that you see yourself doing it, you just say out loud, stop, stop, stop. I don't want that. And the minute that you do that, the brain stops. Now, if you can do that for 3 days, then I welcome you into your new life, because you literally will give birth to a new child, and that child is your own consciousness. Your own consciousness. No one is going to come and give it to you.
Because subconsciously, subconscious doesn't have a sense of humor, as my dad liked to say, and you program it, right? And you give it another, it's like mental, neurological alchemy, right? You just, you just turn something, you know, when alchemists talked about converting something into gold, it wasn't about things, it was about thoughts, because they knew, the Egyptians and Hermes Trismegisto knew that if you try and turn something ordinary into something valuable, then your experience in life would be much more enriched, right?
Perfect. Very well said. This is the opportunity that we all have to turn shit into gold. But it was a metaphor. It was a metaphor.
But I know it's a metaphor, but you know what I like to say, that I've said it in all my conferences. There's in that Ziploc of shit, on that little pile of plastic bag shit, there's always a diamond. And you have to be able to open it and go through it and stick the diamond out of it. If not, everybody would be rich. Everybody would be happy. And everybody would be loving. And that's not the case, because we don't want to go through shit. Right?
It's one of my favorite actors is Tim Robbins. And one of my favorite movies is Shawshank Redemption. Yeah.
Oh,
and
yes.
When you look at this, it's the only way to freedom. The only way to get out, it's to go through the shit. He had to dig through all the sewage. He had to face his own shit. The shit of anger, the shit of resentment, the shit that what happened to me, it was not fair, the shit of how he was violated. He had to go through all that, and he had to come out from the other end. And metaphorically, there was the rain. The rain, you see, the rain symbolizes baptism, right? It symbolizes all of us just washing off all of it off of us. And then he found new freedom, right? So your story, my story, the story of all of your, viewers, it's the same story. All of us, in a way, we feel incarcerated. All of us, in a way, we feel that we're in a jail. The jail could be our physical limitations. The jail could be relationships that we wanted them, they didn't last. The relationships that we find ourselves, it could be the jail, could be dreams that we may feel that it's too late. We can't really, accomplish them. Every human being on the planet, 7.85 billion of us, at one point or another, we will find ourselves inside a jail. Now, we could stay there, or the way out is to go through the sewage of facing our own shit, symbolizing all the guilt, all the shame, all the places that we have misunderstood, all the righteousness, all the ways that we blamed ourselves and we blamed others. That's the only way that you go through and you heal it for the last time. It's you face that which you think you cannot face. You sit and prayerfully experience that which you think it's too fearful, it's too big, you don't have the resources, it will overwhelm you. Every single mystic, every single school of theology, every single school of mystery, it tells you that the alchemy that you're waiting for, it's an inside job. And that alchemy starts by you completely accepting your life and surrendering all of it, and really surrendering, not tolerating. Like, you surrender. Like, for instance, for you, if there is any residual in your being that you feel that, I don't know, that one of your two marriages should have lasted, or they should have done things differently, the minute that you let that go, the minute that you let it go, that you say, no, I don't have access to the Akashic record. I don't know what would have been for my highest good, their highest good, the highest good of my kids, and the highest good of everyone else. And I'm going to accept it. I don't like it, but I accept it. And that's a sign of a deeper maturity that opens us up into that which we cannot cognitively experience, which is Holy Spirit, which is the miracle, the mystery. That's what kept you alive. It wasn't that, yes, I'm certain that the dexterity and and your incredible surgeon had a lot to do with it. His or her experience had a lot to do with it. However, Holy Spirit, that mystery, because the more that you clean out, the more you forgive, the more you let go, you create more spaciousness in order for Holy Spirit to appear. This was the reason the cover of the book is a cup. This is the reason. Because if you empty out and you have the cup, then the tea gets poured in. The tea is symbolic of Holy Spirit.
Yeah. You have
Context.
a container.
Container is everything. It's not the content. That's why so many people keep going from this school to that school, this workshop to that workshop, this book to that book. I didn't want anyone to read this. I encourage people not to read this book. If they just can pay attention and understand the image here, which is the context is everything. The context, when you look at two people go through the same experience. I mean, I see it every day. I've treated over 10,000
You can
patients.
see it with siblings. There's one sibling that tells you an amazing story, family line thing and everything. And then the other one tells you a horror movie. And it's like, shit, we were in the same house with same parents. What happened here?
That's absolutely right. This is the reason. Two people, they order the same food. The food comes out of the same bowl. They eat the same food out of the same bowl using the same spoon. One person gets sick, food poisoning. The other person, nothing. And they say, this was the best food I've ever had. What's the difference? The difference is your buffering capacity, the way you related. If you had all the resources inside, when the food poisoning comes in, it's sort of like you got guests that you didn't know how to entertain them. They just show up. If you have food in your refrigerator and they eat the food, they rest on the couch, and guess what? They leave. They don't bother you. But if you don't have enough resources, if you're completely emptied out, now you get guests such as, salmonella, food poisoning, man, they'll tear you apart. And during this time where everyone is worried about COVID-19, what am I gonna do? How about this medication? We surely need a vaccine. No one is asking, wait a minute, how about my immunity? How can I boost up my immunity so that no matter what comes in, I don't get triggered?
Absolutely, because we are mutants. That's in our DNA. Bacteria and viruses are everywhere. There are pathogens everywhere. What are you supposed to do? To live in that horrible movie where it's like John Travolta was in a bubble? Remember that? It was terrible. You can't live in a bubble. I remember my dad being so worried about dying for 20-something years. He said, like, oh my God, they just told me I had one more year to go and one more year to go. And I would see him going through all this medicine and so sad and not working and not creating anything. I was just thinking, the other day, oh my God, I wish I had 1 year and someone told me. I know that I would do so much, as opposed to being afraid of dying and then not living for 20 years, because he didn't die in a year. He died in 25 years and he didn't enjoy life. So that's what I say about COVID. Okay, so fine. Okay, so you stay at home and your immune system gets depressed and you don't go out and you do all these things, with the washing and the doing and everything. And then the day that you go out, you're dead. Or, the alternative being, okay, you're alive, but you don't want to live anymore because you're so depressed, because you didn't take advantage of this space, because you were thinking about going back to your older life because you didn't adapt. And then you're not enjoying life anymore. So what is the fucking point of being alive after COVID if it's going to take that strain on you, versus go live?
That's it.
And if you die, what the fuck? You were going to die anyway. I don't know.
That's all of us. We are, no one is going to leave alive.
Exactly.
This is... Everyone is going to go through. Why don't we make the
best out of it?
Yes, that's when forgiveness comes into play. That's when love comes into play. That's when honesty comes into play. That's when
Well,
transparency.
it took me many years, but anger and fear are not around anymore. And I have no words to thank you. And it has to do with a clarity cleanse. And every single time that I have a doubt, I go back and I follow you on Instagram and I follow everything you post. And I've gone through all your YouTube because I understand your voice and I understand where that voice that I didn't get and I got so scared of comes from. And I know it comes from a little planet in the same, solar system as yours. I don't have the knowledge or the experience or anything. I don't intend to fix anyone's lives. I just intend to share my experiences and try and tell them what's worked for me. And you've been the most important solution in all this chaos and crisis. And I'm very, very, very grateful. And the last question that I would like to ask you is, what triggered you to become this person that wants to help?
Let me just make comment. You may not, you may not have academically, let's say, the years of schooling and so forth, but there is something that you have, Cristiana, that I want you to understand. And this is the reason that I am here, because I love you and I respect you. That which you have, and you always have had it, is your wisdom. What you have is you have lived. Like there are a lot of people that they have not lived. They live in a bubble. Like they experience life through a bubble. It's sort of like, this might not be the best example, but it's the example that's coming forward. It's sort of like making love, but you're wearing prophylaxis. You're wearing a condom. You don't feel your lover.
I have never played it safe. I know that for a fact. And I know that's the reason why people call me crazy all the time. And sometimes they don't get me. And sometimes it doesn't hurt anymore, actually, now that I think about it. But it's always hurt before, to not, being accepted or understood. But I know because there's so many people that feel like me. And so now I know that it's not a mistake. We're just different. That's all. It's not bad to be different. Okay, so what's your trigger?
Yeah. So what really brought me here was, my journey. I didn't have a Dr. Sadeghi when I was going through what I went through. And I've really published all my medical records when I was diagnosed with cancer. And, and it was a dark place. And when I lost my brother got Parkinson's disease. He was the most brilliant human being I know. I don't know anyone smarter. He graduated from School of Medicine, USC, University of Southern California, at the age of 21, top of his class. He was an interventional cardiologist. And he had there were certain skill sets that perhaps he was missing, and that cost him his life, that cost him to get diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, and then eventually he took his own life. And the clarity cleanse was really, it came out of the crucible of that deep pain. And that's why, you're one of those people that you've experienced a level of intensity and seasonality in life that not too many people go through. There are a lot of people that they move around the flame, but they don't have the courage to go into the flame, and you're one of those people that, and you have the scars to tell about it. Not many people survive the level of cardiothoracic surgery that you've gone through. And I have so much respect for you. And just like you,
they're going to cut us in like 2 minutes, but I would really like to honor this space and say goodbye as I should. And if you agree with me, once they close this, we can go just for 2 or 3 minutes to say goodbye to my IG account. We can do a live. Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's do that. Let's go. Let's just say goodbye. Thank you. Thank you for being here with us. And let's move to the other IG account so that we can say goodbye in a respectful and loving way. Yeah.
Fantastic. I'll meet you there. Go live and then I'll send you a request.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Bye.
Bye.